Welcome back to Crypto Zeros. I am George. In this video, I want to talk about how Bitcoin is now bigger than some of the biggest companies out there, including Visa, JP Morgan, and PayPal. And these companies happen to be the ones that were basically trying to shut down Bitcoin, the ones that were very against Bitcoin because they felt threatened by Bitcoin. But now they have all pretty much done a 180. As they see they can no longer suppress Bitcoin, they have to embrace it. Now, what I'm going to show you is actually from my live stream this morning. I had a bit of a hiccup, so I wasn't showing my screen, but I've corrected that. So take a look and then let's discuss. 27,100, and we certainly have seen some crazy gains over this last few days, right? It's wild. It's really wild. So because of it, I've been looking at AssetDash, which ranks all the top companies of the world and ranks cryptocurrency within them. Basically, they rank anything that has a market cap, anything that is worth anything. And of course, you have the big tech companies up there: Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Facebook, even Tesla is now 7, right? You got a couple of Chinese companies, Tencent, Alibaba, Taiwanese company, and then you have Berkshire Hathaway, which, Bitcoin's about to surpass too. So I can't wait until that happens. Then we could all rub it in Warren Buffett's face. But look at Bitcoin now, has climbed to number 11 with over 500 billion in market cap. So now Bitcoin is worth more than Visa. Yes, it's worth more than Visa. So what does that mean? Well, Bitcoin is now the biggest payment network on earth. It's more than Visa and MasterCard. And pretty soon, Bitcoin is going to be worth more than both combined. That's how high and how fast Bitcoin is growing. So this is a big achievement for Bitcoin to surpass Visa, which not too long ago tried to really stop this momentum. And I'm going to get to it. A lot of these companies have tried to stop Bitcoin, and they have all failed. So not only are they bigger than Visa, they're also bigger than Walmart. Think about that, bigger than Walmart, Johnson & Johnson. Of course, JP Morgan is next at number 15 with 383 billion. And we all know what Jamie Dimon have said in the past, and I'm going to remind you guys in case you forgot. And then look at down the list. You got MasterCard, right? You have PayPal also, which has become very crypto friendly recently, right? But not too long ago, they were not. There were some very, very harsh words that came out of the ex-CEO of PayPal. And as you can see, Bitcoin has surpassed all these naysayers, okay? They're all jumping on a bandwagon. They're like, okay, we need to adopt or we're going to die. Bitcoin is going to kill us, basically. So we need to adopt, and that's what they're all doing, right? But it kind of shows you Bitcoin is on a path where it's just pretty much unstoppable at this point. I mentioned about Bitcoin could be bigger than Visa and MasterCard combined pretty soon. Well, that's only the beginning. As it climbs this list, you know what? There's no reason why Bitcoin can't surpass Apple in the near future. And why is that? Because what doesn't show up on here is gold. Gold is worth about $9 trillion. $9 trillion. So who's to say that Bitcoin can't be equal to gold? Okay, or even half. Let's just say conservatively, half of gold. That means it's worth $4.5 trillion. That would be double of where Apple is now. So as we move into 2021, right, the latter half of 2021, we could see Bitcoin moving up from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? This is really only the beginning. It shows how massive Bitcoin is. But it also shows how small Bitcoin is, because when you compare it to something like gold, there's still so much room to grow, right? But I guess that's the enigma of Bitcoin. It's big and it's also small. And there's a lot more money that is coming in. So I like to remind you guys some of these companies that Bitcoin has surpassed recently. Let's start with JP Morgan and Mr. Dimon, Jamie Dimon. He flat out in 2017 called Bitcoin a fraud. And to quote, the currency isn't going to work. You can't have a business where people can invent a currency out of thin air and think people who are buying it are really smart. I would fire them in a second for two reasons. He's talking about people within JP Morgan that would be trading crypto. It is against our rules, and they are stupid, and both are dangerous. Wow. He would fire them on a second. Well, guess what? JP Morgan is now telling their own clients to go buy Bitcoin. Yes, they are actually advising their clients to buy Bitcoin because they see that gold is going to be in danger, that companies and institutions are selling their gold for Bitcoin. So how 3 years have really changed, how JP Morgan really went, it did a 180. And Jamie Dimon now says that he regrets calling Bitcoin a fraud. He regrets it. He says it's not his cup of tea, but he regrets calling a fraud. Well, of course, you have to say that when your own company is now advising the rich and wealthy to go buy Bitcoin. But just to give you a subtle reminder, this was only 3 years ago, right? Obviously, it's easy to kick something on its way down. It's not so easy to kick it when it's bulldozing its way up, right? And now Bitcoin is now worth more than JP Morgan. Okay, well, what about some of the other guys? Well, Visa didn't come out and blatantly say Bitcoin is a fraud, but they didn't like where things were going, right? Especially with crypto debit cards, which allowed people to spend their crypto basically anywhere, right? So Visa wanted to make sure that that didn't take place. So they basically nixed all crypto debit cards so that you can no longer use them where Visa is accepted, right? Because they thought this is going to be a big thing. They don't want people to take power away from not only them, but from the banks. Keep in mind, all these debit cards are traditionally from a bank, right? Now, if people are just paying stuff directly from their crypto wallet, well, that threatens the banks. And Visa is very, very tied into the banks, and they don't want that to happen. So they, not too long ago, 2 years ago, they basically canceled all debit cards that could be accepted by Visa worldwide. Well, guess what happened now, right? Now it's different. Now they're accepting it. And now they're looking into their own crypto. And they're looking into Bitcoin as well. They're trying to see how they can improve by utilizing blockchain and by utilizing cryptocurrency. So, again, you're starting to see how things have progressed within just 2 years span, right? When I was telling you guys these things 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it's hard to hear. Hard to hear when Bitcoin is at like $4,000, $5,000, right? But now it's not so hard to hear. But this has all been very, very quickly. On the grand scheme of things, 2-3 years for a complete 180 from these companies. Just think about it. And what about this? Former PayPal CEO goes on CNBC, argues with the panel, and this is when, again, Bitcoin 6,000. It's easy to kick Bitcoin when it was low. Bill Harris says Bitcoin is heading to zero. That is a complete fraud, complete Ponzi, that it has no value whatsoever, and that is why it's heading to zero. Well, guess what? Maybe that's why he's the former PayPal CEO, not the current PayPal CEO, because he's so close-minded that PayPal, the board, probably kicked him out, saying, you don't know what the hell you're doing. That's probably the reason why he's the former CEO, not the current CEO. But you could see how PayPal for the longest time was also threatened by Bitcoin, right? And now they have fully embraced it. They saw what Square did, and Jack Dorsey is such a big Bitcoin bull. They're looking at Square and they're like, oh my God, Cash App is making over $1 billion in revenue per quarter on Bitcoin. How can we miss out, right? We need to get some of that for ourselves. So now let's allow people to trade on PayPal, which is huge, I'm not going to deny the fact that it is absolutely huge. I believe just the number of people buying on PayPal already way surpasses the number of Bitcoin that is being produced. So periodically when PayPal needs to refresh their inventory, they need to buy more Bitcoin to allow their users to buy. When those periods come in, it drives Bitcoin up. I do believe why Bitcoin is seeing a sudden surge recently, especially during Christmas when things are closed, I think a lot of it has to do with PayPal because they have to constantly refresh how much Bitcoin they have in their inventory. And as Bitcoin goes higher and higher and more retail FOMO kicks in, they have to buy more and more and more. And you can see how that's a vicious cycle, and that's good for us Bitcoin holders because that's going to keep driving things up and up and up and up. You don't want to bet against Bitcoin. Bitcoin is one of those things that cannot be killed. It's only going to gain strength and momentum, right? And all the naysayers are pretty much dying and disappearing, right? Not only that, you're having some of the smartest and richest and wealthiest people of finance, of money, of whatever, right? They're all diving into Bitcoin for the right reasons, not because they see it to going to the moon like rest of us. They're seeing it as a better hedge, as a better currency, as a better store of value than money, than cash, than USD, right? So that's a big endorsement. Basically, if you don't believe anything that you hear or read, the one true referee is the market. Is Bitcoin going up? And if so, right? What does that mean? That means the market is dictating that it is the wise move. It is the smart investment, right? And that is exactly what's happening. Bitcoin, if you calculate the percentage gain from just 2020 alone, is like around 300% now, right? While the S&P, while everything else is just basically break even, a little bit higher, but look at Bitcoin, right? And if you look at dollar versus Bitcoin, dollar's doing this. That's what the dollar is doing, while Bitcoin is doing this. So what do you guys think about Bitcoin being worth more than Visa, JP Morgan, and PayPal? Pretty soon, I believe Bitcoin will be worth more than Visa and MasterCard combined. And I do think it's going to slowly climb the ranks until it becomes number one. As more and more and more money flows in, Bitcoin's value will only increase. So leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And also stay tuned for my future videos, including my live streams every weekday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. In the meantime though, while you're waiting, check out these two other videos.